you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. April 30th is the 40th anniversary of the fall of Saigon, and so I'd like to dedicate this reading to the memory of the war and all the lives that were affected by the war. And on the day that Saigon fell, my father was a captain in the South Vietnam Army, so he had a gun with him, and he was going to shoot himself because he knew that the communists were coming and the effects on the South Vietnam Army. And my mom was pregnant with me at that time, and she convinced him not to. So he spent 9 years in a Viet Cong education camp instead. Immigration. It is October, when the winds of autumn blow strong in the Pacific. There are over 2,000 of us, sardines, barely human and starving. We sleep on the floor and wash ourselves with seawater. People are sick. When someone dies from sickness, she or he is wrapped in a blanket and tossed overboard during a Buddhist chant. I was only 2 years old and cannot recollect the dying next to me, nor can I recollect my constant coughing, nor can I recall seeing my mother's worried countenance as she contemplated our future. How my constant crying made her want to jump overboard. Cockroaches. A proposal by someone to my mom after the Vietnam War. Why don't you sell your baby? You don't have anything to eat. A response by my 4-year-old brother. No, don't sell my sister. There are lots of cockroaches for us to eat. When I returned to the country 18 years later, I saw them. Large, brown, shiny tanks on the wall. Evidence of my brother's love for me. Vietnam ghost stories. Ghost-like beings roam, carrying the bones of the dead, their steps heavy with the weight of fields and fields. And the dead too, stories mother tells of the ghost with a long tongue that licks dishes at night. When I first saw Daddy, he was like an Egyptian cat, skinny, foraging, and stern, just released from a Viet Cong prison. He told us he hated the color red. 16 years later, he wears a red sweatshirt and smiles, the pin tip opening in his heart enough to let in a driblet of red. Agent Orange. It is difficult to be alone without a mother's touch, in a crib like a baby, except one is not. A son taught to live with a thirst for a mother who loves her child, though one of his legs is too long, the other too short. He sits, arms bent and limp, but do not avoid him. He wants to interact. His swollen eyes and misshapen head leans back. In a dream, mother holds him close, as if by her embrace alone she will somehow right the wrong. The chemical traveled through her placenta to the womb where small limbs that needed to form couldn't, where the tiny body, the size of a fist, no longer knew what to do. It was named for the orange band around each 55-gallon drum. Orange as a sunrise that permeates one's soul, how its rays cover the sky and the earth with a deep orange, rising as those bodies also rise. And in central Vietnam, more bombs were dropped than the entire World War II over here. So there are still many unexploded landmines, and many people are killed every year still from those bombs that we dropped. The gambler. The metal rod she holds is her wand. The deck is more than 52 cards. Her suits, bombs used on both sides of the war. M14, Daploy, Min Mui. She walks in the wild fields seeking the invisible, bringing it to the surface in a strange beauty of smoke and explosion. The wager is her life or limb. The shovel, a tongue that lifts the crumbling earth to reach an unexploded landmine. She spreads out the dirt beneath her hands like cards. And when my father came back from the war, he experienced very severe post-traumatic stress. His poems about that. Violin. When my father kicked my violin against the stove, there was a crash, and the wood carved so lovingly cracked with the force, splintered away from the hole into silence. I was about 12 years old then, remembering my father, the war, his anger, the broken neck of the violin, the collapsed bridge, severed sound vibrations, the arc of the instrument's shoulder I once held in my hand, and the empty curving space that was the window to the world. I am thinking of the trajectory of circles, bombs, my waist, a wanting and needing to let go. The decade the rainforest died, the deer did not stop running. Leopards climbed into trees that could not hide them. The Dublanker and the white-cheeked gibbon cursed at the metal gods we flew, raining on them as they burned from napalm. Elephants choked on the smoke of gunpowder and poison, their steps a strange rhythm as they tried to fly. The thunder of bombs echoed the steps of elephants. Tigers exploded as they stepped onto landmines. In a forest covered with leaves dead from Agent Orange, fallen trees and decomposing bodies of animals and people, the earthworms were washed away in monsoons with soil that could no longer grab onto roots. The Javan rhinoceros and the wild water buffaloes that were still alive wandered aimlessly, and wary with M16s and AK-47s, we marched quietly and steadily, not knowing why we were killing each other. Mekong River. Today's flowers let me inside into their vase-shaped bodies. Today, I swim this river with its fish and turtles and crocodiles, and I know the river does not need a name. There are no memories of dead bodies floating, bloated, lonely, or of massacres. Today, I do not feel the blood of the dead seep through my skin's pores as I swim this sacred water of my childhood. My hair wet, the sun sparkles around lush green rainforests and jungles unkilled by defoliants, stretching out their 70-million-year-old arms as they yawn. A Duglanker monkey peers out from behind leaves, its orange hair, another sun. Today is bright and hot and tropical. The palm leaves sway, and people in their boats with baskets of fruits and vegetables and talk float like a leaf along with the current. A woman sits at the end of a boat full of freshly cut bananas, her knees to her chest, wooden paddle in her hands. She steers and stirs the river. One short poem left, and this one I dedicate to my son. Photosynthesis. How can I convince you that you do have chlorophyll, that you can take the sun's energy and turn it into sugar, produce something sweet inside of you, take the waste people breathe out and make it into something that will keep you alive, that will keep those around you alive, create oxygen. Why do you say that this metaphor doesn't work? That you don't have the powers of a plant, that nature didn't intend you that way? Look how you twist and turn towards the light.